We have another wonderful episode for you today. And what an amazing day it is because it's Valentine's Day. And when I was talking to my dear friend, George Pitagorsky, hello, George, good to have you here.
Hi, nice to see you.
I thought, this is a perfect episode for Valentine's Day because what I know about women in the second half of life that are solo. And if you're not solo, what we're going to be talking about today will totally enhance your relationship. I just knew that this message that George is bringing today is about having the optimal health and wellness in your heart that every woman needs to know about. And how to do that, how to have healthy, peaceful relationships. And well, let me tell you a little bit about George before I go on to what we're going to talk about. Let me just say that this is a special, special episode, and it's going to be perfect for you on this day of love and celebration. And if you're listening to it after Valentine's Day, may every day be a day to celebrate love and harmony in your life. So let me tell you about George. George Pitagorsky brings over 50 years of study and practice of yoga, meditation, Buddhist and non-dual psychology applied in daily life as an entrepreneur, coach, technology executive, spouse, parent, and grandparents. His work is to enable people to eliminate unnecessary stress and attain optimal wellness, relationships, and performance. We're not just talking about physical wellness, we're talking about joy and happiness. And as I said, having love and expansion in your life. So, George, let's drop in.
It's
So good to have you here.
great to be here. And this is, of course, one of my favorite topics. How do we deal with life in a way that makes us happy, that ultimately fulfills us?
Exactly, because life is in session and life throws us curveballs and how we respond to it, how we show up for life, especially when it comes to relationships, they can either be stress free and harmonious, or they can be full of tension and lack of connection. Would you say that's true, George?
I would say that they never become stress-free.
That's true.
And stress in and of itself is not such a bad thing. It keeps us awake. And other than that, I certainly agree that in our relationships, we have the great opportunity to fine tune ourselves, our way of being. We can use the relationship in that way. And then at the same time, we have a connection with another that continuously reminds us that we're not alone.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to go back into the stress thing because, you're absolutely right. Like have a stress-free life, have a stress-free relationship. What does that even mean? And I think it comes down to our viewpoint of like, what does even stress mean? I mean, for me, without looking it up, it's something that's coming into my life that's causing me to have some disharmony, something that is not as peaceful as I'd like. You walk outside and you step in some shit that somebody didn't pick up. That could cause me stress, but it also doesn't have to impact me hugely, like some other stresses or just how I view things. So there's ways to deal with stress, and like in relationships, there's always going to be something. So what's your definition of stress?
Well, from a scientific point of view, stress is anything that challenges the structure. The status quo is challenged in some way,
Yeah.
and just going out, using your analogy about going outside and stepping in some dog poo.
Poopy.
Um, just going outside
Yeah.
was a stress on the body. The
Yeah.
cold air hits your face and all of that stuff. So there's different kinds of stress.
Mhm.
There's a kind of stress that is damaging. If there's too much stress, we are damaged by it. But just enough stress is like keeping the water just at a gentle boil, rather than flat where algae and bacteria can keep up. So we've got this need, in effect, for having enough stress to keep us awake and to keep us
Yeah,
healthy.
it
So
makes sense.
yeah, and we put stress on ourselves. We go to the gym. We go to situations that increase the stress on our body because we realize that if we just lie around like a lump, we're going to not be healthy.
Exactly. And just like you said about going to the gym, if we don't push ourselves a little bit, push against a little bit with those weights, then those muscles don't get stronger and they don't stay fit. And I think that's a really great analogy when it comes to relationships and specifically dating, that it does keep us on our toes, that when we bump up against different situations, it gives us the opportunity firstly to go, whoa, what's going on inside of me that's uncomfortable for me, and what can I do about it? Versus if we just stay in our homes and we never go out and never see anybody, well, one could say, well, I'm so peaceful and stress-free. However, what are we missing out on? And what is the growth potential if we actually do connect with other people and have a life outside of our cave?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not to say that there's anything wrong with being a monk in a cave, but that's not what we're about, and our audience is not about that. So yeah, we need to get out there, and in effect, our relationships are the gym.
Yes,
So we go out and we create relationships, but as we're doing that, we recognize that the relationship is the gym that exercises our self-awareness, our ability to see how we are operating, see how we're reacting, see what stress we're putting on ourselves unnecessarily. So that's probably the most damaging stress of all, is the stress that's internally generated, self-imposed. So we use our
yes.
relationships, as you were saying, to give us a sense of what am I bringing to this situation that is causing the feeling of being stressed.
Absolutely. And I always tell my clients that I love being in relationship, because to me it's the crucible, it's the container for me to actually check in to see where I'm at and how I can grow and what does get under my skin. And it doesn't mean that the other person doesn't have a behavior that may or may not be great, but how am I reacting to it and where am I losing my peace around it? And I know that you talk about acceptance and letting go as a way, as a path to having harmony. So I'm wondering, as we're talking about being in relationship, an opportunity for self-awareness and kind of going, ouch, my toes were just stepped on, or I didn't get what I wanted or expected. And, of course, when there's expectations, that in itself is a little tricky. Can you talk to us a little bit or share a little bit more about how you view having harmony and letting go of those stressful things that can show up as a way to enhance our awareness? Did that make sense? I kind of feel like I
Yeah,
was all over the place
absolutely.
there. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So I think that let's start with the understanding of what it means to be accepting. So when we say accept, we're talking about allowing the past to be just what it is, because we don't have any capability of changing it. So your choice is either accept the past or be miserable about it. So there's that. Same thing is true about the moment of the present moment. We can't change the present moment. Somebody steps on our toes right then and there, we feel the pain. There's no denying it. I mean, there is denying it, but denying it is, not particularly helpful. So we accept the present. Then we let go into the future, as opposed to dwelling on the past, as opposed to dwelling on the stubbed toe. We now see, well, as you have said, what am I bringing to this that's causing me discomfort, disharmony? I seed that question. In a relationship situation, we're not going to spend 20 minutes trying to figure that out. we're just bringing the question to ourselves so that we're no longer driven by the emotional reactivity that comes up based on looking at the past and the present moment. And now we let go into our flow with the other party. And what I mean by flow is that quality of being able to do what is necessary to be done without hanging on to shoulds and woulds and coulds. It's this quality of flow with a capital F. I don't know if you're familiar with that idea of flow or being in the zone, where you're letting go into this quality of doing without doing. We can do
Doing
that.
without doing. And when you say, I mean, I may not know necessarily that the way you just put it in concept, but when you say that, it taps into the allowing it to be what it is.
Exactly.
And when we can allow what is, it frees us up versus the blaming, the shaming, the controlling, the being attached to a different outcome than what truly is present. Would you say that's
I would
apples
say
to
that that's,
apples?
yeah, apples to apples. Yes, definitely. That's the way we're talking about. So now, in order for me to feel comfortable with this quality of letting go into that allowance, not only of what the other person has done, because I can't do anything about that in the moment, but allowing myself to do what I'm doing, what I can do. And that requires a certain degree of emotional intelligence, an understanding and acceptance of one's own capacity to control not only their emotions, but to have a dialogue with another person in a cogent way, as opposed to yelling at them or withdrawing. I'm now conversing. I'm using skills that I've developed over time to help me build my relationship in a healthy way. And at the same time, I'm looking at the relationship and what the other party might be bringing to it. And I'm making decisions. Part of letting go is letting go of the relationship if it's damaging. Who wants to be in a relationship with an abuser? And if I can't change if the abuser can't change him or herself to become not an abuser, then I've got to let go of that. And that's not so easy.
Well, what I love about this is when we can really be in the present. And of course, as human beings, that's one of the biggest challenges because our past can still have some tethers.
Mhm.
And that's the work I do, is helping people really unplug from the past so the past stays in the past.
Mhm.
However, that's a lovely intention and we all work on it. And sometimes things get under our skin. If we can master or at least move more closely to this present moment that you're talking about, it does give us more information. It
Yes.
does allow us to have more choice. To your point, well, if I'm here and I'm seeing this reality, do I want to let go of this relationship? I can see more clearly. I can detach from it emotionally. But if we're stuck in the past and we're looking through that lens of the past, and suddenly there is that person across the table that's just like my ex, we're going to be triggered and eventually unable to stay present, which may get in the way of us actually seeing clearly the person as well as what to even do next. So what do you, if you want to add something to that, please do. And I'm just curious, what would you recommend to someone who's like, yeah, but these guys, or they get under my skin, or they're only, they're like, I'm on this date and I have a really hard time being present. And then they might push them away, or they're not able to enjoy the journey. Because here we are, Valentine's Day, and a lot of women are not going to enjoy it. They're not going to feel the peace because they're still having the stories from the past. They're feeling the loneliness of the present and fear of the future. So there's a lot there, but I'm curious what you have to offer around that.
Well, one of the things that I bring out in my book is that the quality of mindful awareness is fundamental. It's the baseline for being able to deal with that whole situation that you're bringing in. And what that means is cultivating a mindset that may not ever be perfect, but at least gives you the intention to continuously come back to the present moment
Yeah.
and observe it objectively. So you don't have to become, a professional meditator to do that. There are exercises and techniques that enable one to do that in day-to-day life, moment to moment. And you never have to go on a 10-day silent retreat or anything like that. But you do have to cultivate that muscle of
Yeah.
being mindful enough to recognize when you're going out into reactive mode and have the capacity to bring yourself back to the present moment.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because if we let our emotions run us, then we can't be present. We can't enjoy. So when we lash out at people, we push people away. And for this woman who might be wanting to have deeper connection, that dropping in and being mindful is a ticket to having a deeper connection and being able to see more clearly. I'm thrilled that you're pointing out that you don't have to go on this deep 10-day meditation. And it's a muscle. It's like you don't have to go to the gym every single day and do a 3-hour workout, step by step. So I'm curious, is there one simple go-to technique that you can offer this woman right now to help
Absolutely.
her? Okay, great.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, it's one of the cornerstones of this method that I'm bringing out in this book. And the technique is very, very simple. And we can do it right now. It's simply
Please.
in contact with your body. Just feel the sensations of your body. Gently put yourself into an erect and relaxed posture. Take a breath. Feel the sensations of the breath as it enters and leaves your body. You simply notice. End of story. That's the exercise.
You know what? And you can do that sitting across the table from a date, you know?
Absolutely.
You could
We
just
just
take
did
that
it
breath.
now.
Yeah, and just like, how am I feeling? Because that's one of the biggest things that I encourage people to do is, what's going on? How are you feeling being with this person? Are you feeling relaxed? Are you walking on eggshells? Are you able to let down the mask and just be who you are? Or are you watching everything you say? And how is your body feeling? So if you do this, you might notice, oh, I'm feeling a little tense. I'm feeling a little tight. Like, what's that
Exactly.
about?
Exactly. And then you might find that you're starting to judge yourself. I shouldn't be feeling tense at this point. I shouldn't be this, I shouldn't be that, or I should be this, or I should be that. And because you're mindful, you recognize the shoulds that are
Yep.
coming up. And
Yep.
you can see them. And more and more, you can drop them. But at the same
Again,
time, we don't expect to be perfect. We
right.
accept the fact that I went on this date. It was a total disaster because I couldn't let go.
Yep.
And okay, that's the past. I accept that. What can I do? Using that experience and what I know about the need to be present and aware and in touch with my feelings and not reacting to them, what can I do to enhance that? To make the intention the next time to be that much more together.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And that awareness gives us such freedom because we get to then learn from it and really see more of what's actually happening in real time. I love that. You've mentioned your book a couple of times, and my apologies, I have not said, and his new book, because I know you've written 5 books, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us about the new one? Because it's a great title, and tell us a little bit more about that, because it's such a powerful intention.
Yeah. Well, the title is The Peaceful Warrior's Path, and it is a book. The subtitle is Optimal Wellness Through Self-Aware Living. And the theme of the book is recognizing that first, optimal means as well as can be, as good as possible. And wellness is this collection of qualities that include health, wealth, mental, psychological well-being, and so forth. So there's, some model 8 dimensions to wellness. So we have wellness, and we have now self-aware. Being self-aware is what we've been talking about, recognizing the internal workings, the inner workings of our system, and how our beliefs, our expectations, our mental models all collectively influence the way we operate. So to be self-aware gives us the ability to observe that quality of our mind. And by doing that, it now gives us choice. You had used the word choice before. We have choice because we're mindfully aware and we're aware of our inner workings. We now have the choice of doing something about it. Now we can just accept everything as it is internally, and we need to do that, but we don't have to accept what's happening next. We can perhaps do something about that, and at the same time, not be attached to an outcome, because that's just bringing another expectation and another model into play. So I use this theme. I use the image of a person hanging from a branch on the bank of a river, rushing river underneath. Can't get back onto the solid land, and has this choice. Does this person let go and drop into the river, or does the person hang on until they're so tired that they no longer have the capacity to hold? If you choose to let go and drop into the river, you have enough energy to do what can be done to navigate in the running water. You can angle your way to the other bank of the river. You can avoid the stones and rocks that are in the way, but you also might be swept away into the waterfall and be dashed in the rocks below. But at least you have a chance.
I love that, and as you were sharing that metaphor, I was thinking about a very common theme I hear about relationships and staying too long, staying in a relationship and not letting go.
Yeah.
And how it does end up very often very messy, painful, exhausting, expensive, heartbreaking, fill in the blank.
Yes.
And if we are able to really be in that conscious, aware place and stop sooner, jump out of the boat and go with the river instead of, or whatever the metaphor is, instead of holding on so tight to that one branch, versus let me see if I can just go with it. Like it would be such a different experience. I mean, even when I'm coaching the women, when they, after they've done their work and they're ready to put themselves out there, we talk about who's in front of you and who are you attracting and how long do you actually give someone a chance, And so when to let go is when it's just not peaceful, harmonious. And yet I'm going to take that back, because we can sometimes be in relationships that have challenge, as we said, but is it working? Is it worth, because if we're aware, is it worth sticking with, or is it really red flags? And it's like time to let go and flow and have a different choice along the way. And that's something that I think is really important to be aware of.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's a very difficult decision to make in a relationship situation. In the hanging on the branch situation, it's a no-brainer. Still, people will cling, but it's a no-brainer, because if you cling too much, you're going to die. So, but in a relationship, it's it's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of lack of clarity about it. And this is where self-awareness comes into play. The more you can really step back and disengage from your past experiences and really see what's happening internally, so that you can be happy no matter what.
Yes.
When you're happy no matter what, then you can open to the world and allow people to come into your circle, to your situation, and deal with them in a very, very upfront, open, clear way. Because you're not attached, you're not trying to keep this person or push them away.
Yep.
You're just open to seeing what happens.
Yes.
And
Yes.
as you see what happens, you now make choices.
And again, being Valentine's Day, the month of love, being able to love no matter what, to be happy no matter what, because ultimately, when we have ourselves and we're able to be present with our own hearts and allow things to be what they are without over controlling or trying to change somebody, because that's the other thing I'm always like, don't date somebody that you hope will change. It's like, can you accept him for who he is? Otherwise, guess what? And
And
that
know
you
that
can,
he's going to change.
and say again, what'd you say?
And you also will know that he is going to change because everyone changes.
Exactly.
So if you
Exactly.
hang on to somebody because you like the way they are now and don't expect them to change, you got the same problem that you have if you want them to change in a certain way.
It's so true. And when we're able to dance with each other without the whip saying, you have to change, you're not good enough, I expect this, versus being in a relationship and dancing in the crucible of the relationship, that's when things do shift because it comes out of love.
Yeah,
And yet not expecting it to change, not expecting a certain outcome. And that's what is that saying? Drinking the poison and hoping somebody else dies. It's like it's like, can we truly own our still point in our own hearts, no
that's
matter what? And I know that's something I continually work on. It is
yeah,
a muscle I continually build so that I can be present with everybody and not drink the poison of what I think should be different.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. There's so much there. I think one of the things that I try to bring out is this quality. We talk about love, and most of the time we're talking about interpersonal love.
Yeah.
But there's this quality of loving awareness that I don't know if you're familiar with Ram Dass, but the teacher of mine and many of us talks about loving awareness and love as being that quality of completely being open and in that center that is not really a center at all, but like an expansive, unbounded clarity and openness and so forth. That's what love from an absolute point of view is. And when we can be in touch with that, it allows us to more effectively come into a loving relationship with other people. We stop seeing them as other people. We start seeing them as just part of us because we're all in this ocean of love. And the more we can dissolve into it, the more likely it is that we're going to be happy and we're going to be well. So
Oh, so
I
good.
have a chapter in this book called Relationship Yoga. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, where relationships become the gym. We're using the relationship as a means to get continuously back in touch with that center, with that sense of absolute love. And realizing at the same time that we're not going to be perfect at it, that we're humans and we're stuck in our past, but at the same time we can have moments and growing moments of connection to that center.
Ah,
The more
so
we
good.
understand what that center feels like, the more quickly we can come back to it, sitting
Exactly.
across from this other person in the coffee shop or the bar or whatever.
Exactly. And the more and when we can really know what that feels like and we embody that more and more, we'll notice when we're away from it as well. So we know how to get
Exactly.
back to it as well as, wait a second, I just fell off the beam. I'm noticing that I'm in my head or I'm in my anxiousness or whatever it is. So good.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
good, George. I know you have a special offer for this great listener watcher of a 15-minute introductory conversation. That's awesome. What is this? What will somebody experience in this kind of conversation with you?
Well, they would experience an opportunity to basically focus in on what is their core issue. What is it really that would be bringing them to wanting to have a conversation with somebody like me, who is dealing with this idea of a peaceful warrior's path?
Mm,
And that having the ability to articulate that issue, and then have a small conversation about, well, what can one do about that? How
nice.
can one address that? And that could lead to that person now goes away and deals with it themselves. They can go to you and have coaching. They can come to me and have coaching, whatever they want.
Oh, it's great. So it's exploring what this is and what it is to them and supporting them around it. It sounds beautiful. We'll make sure we put the link in the show notes,
Yeah.
as well as where to find George. And any last words to this woman on Valentine's Day and opening to love when it comes to being the peaceful warrior, being on the peaceful warrior path?
I chose the title of a warrior because this stuff requires courage and persistence and patience. The courage is there because I'm confronting the inner workings that I've identified with as being me. And I have to have the courage now to let go of me. And then the patience and persistence to do that over time, because it's not like, you don't tear the skin off a snake, basically. The snake sheds its skin, and we allow that to happen. And at the same time, work with it by applying techniques and concepts.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Before we go, I just want to say this was so special to spend some time with you. I could have said this offline, but I met George years ago. One of my dear family members, a cousin of mine, second cousin, was dear friends with George. She just passed, my cousin Sandra, and we were at her 80th. Was it her 80th or 70th? I
I
think it was
think
her
it was
80th. Well, 70th? Okay. Well, yeah, because it was a long
I think
time
it was
ago
her
that I met
70th.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we were at one of her big birthday parties, and George was sitting across the table from me, and we just started talking, and I just really want to acknowledge you, George, because from the very beginning of speaking with you, you are somebody that does walk the peaceful warrior's path, continually honing in on your own journey and sharing it with the world. And I just wanted to give a shout out to my cousin, who's probably looking down at us right now going, whoa, the two of them are playing on Junie's what is this called? A podcast. And Sandra was always one of my big supporters, always sending me emails and acknowledging the work that I do. And so I'm just in this moment very grateful for her to have connected us and for you having time to come on the podcast. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. Well, that is our special episode today about awareness and acceptance and love no matter what, happiness no matter what. And be sure to grab his 15-minute conversation so you can hone in even more. And until we meet again,
And buy my book.
and buy his book. Where can they find his? We'll put it in the show notes. But where can they find it? Is it on Amazon or?
It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of the online places where you can buy books.
Beautiful. The Peaceful Warrior's Path: Optimal Wellness Through Self-Aware Living and How It Applies. Oh, and self-aware living. There we go. So we'll put it in the show notes, and that's it for today.
Okay.
Thanks, George.
So lovely.
One more thing before you go. Have you taken my Discover Your Love Avatar quiz? It's a 2-minute quiz that can help you not only know your strengths, your superpower, because you have one, Also, identify some of your blind spots, some of the things that might be having you in your fear, having you behaving in ways that aren't in alignment with your highest self, the way you want to be when it comes to dating and relationships. And it'll also help you discover why maybe the stars haven't lined up for you yet. Bottom line is, you take this 2-minute quiz, you get a full report in your email with details on how to move forward in next level love, whether you want a partner or not. So you can go to midlifeloveoutloud.com/love quiz. The link is in the show notes as well. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the station, I'm going to encourage you to do that too, so you don't miss any episodes. And I hope you got a ton out of today's. See you next week. Mwah.